Really? Sound, I guess I'm good to go. What's that? Click on mute.
I'm sorry, Chris. Are we on mic now?
Yes. Yes, we are, Mr. Mayor.
Can everybody hear? Yeah, everybody can hear. Okay. Are we missing anybody? Yeah.
Chris right now.
We're waiting just a couple more minutes. We have maybe Chris has got to come in yet. We're going to start. So, okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And is there any conflict of interest amongst council members here tonight? Seeing none. Before we start, I would just like to express my disappointment into what happened today with phase 1 and phase 2. The whole province come out of phase 1 and went into phase 2, which we didn't. And it's very disappointing. I listened to Drew Dilkins today about 5 minutes before I come in here, and he hit the button right on. You know, if these greenhouse operators do not take control of the situation and get their workers tested, this is not going to go away. These numbers keep going up and up and up and up and up. The turnout on the testing over the last weekend was terrible. Nobody went out and got tested. It's a shame. So somehow, I don't know what we're going to do, but we have to pressure. We got to put some pressure on our greenhouse operators. I don't think in this area, I think they're good in this area, but in the Leamington area, and I hate to say it, that's where most cases are, Leamington and Kingsville. So I hope council is behind us, and we got to push, somehow we got to push to get mandatory testing. Like Drew Dilkins said, you know, we can't force them to do it, but somehow we have to pressure these greenhouse owners to get it done. So anyways, with that behind us, this is adoption. I need adoption of the published agenda for tonight's meeting, please. I need a mover, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Verbeek. All in favor? It's carried, thank you. And then we'll go right into
Councillor Vanderbilt.
Councillor Vanderbilt in now?
He's coming in right
Okay, good. And we'll go right into the reports from administration. Chris Nepsey, go ahead, our CAO.
Yeah, no problem. Is Councillor Vanderbilt on?
I believe he just came on. Right now he's
I'll wait till he connects.
Okay.
Since he's here, so he's connected to audio. Welcome, Councillor Vanderbilt. Thank you, Council, for making the time to meet today. I think that's fantastic that we can get together on an issue like this. So I guess why we're here is regarding the Colchester Harbor and the beach, and discussions on options and steps and issues and challenges that we have right now trying to maintain operations there. So just a quick summary. I don't want to get into the details because they're really irrelevant at this point, but on Friday night, we had large gatherings. We found out that there were actually some high school grad parties, and not even high schools in our municipality. High schools from Windsor actually had come in and had their grad parties on our beach Friday night, which is all related to the COVID response. I mean, people are looking for places to go and to do things. So the OPP did attend. They attended a couple times during the day and they attended at night. But as we all know, there were issues there. So following Friday night, many discussions with the mayor, with the deputy CAO and the director of community services, Doug Sweet, made the call to make sure, knowing that the weather was going to be similar on Saturday and Sunday, to have police presence there. So in a few discussions with the OPP, we assigned 2 officers on Saturday, 2 officers on Sunday, both for a 12-hour shift outside of our contract. So those monies are outside of the budget, outside of the contract, but we felt it was the right thing to do to get us through the weekend to today to discuss where we want to head. That is going to cost us upwards between $4,500 and $5,000 in addition to our budget right now in terms of what that brought. I did attend, both Doug and I attended the beach on Saturday, and I saw some emails floating around in terms of it was different. It definitely was busy, but there were pockets of people packed. I mean, that police presence really carries with it what it's supposed to carry with it. They were out and about. I saw them, I talked to them. They were mingling, walking around, you know, and they have that calmness to them, and they were having people, you know, they were restricting them from playing, you know, active sports. They were restricting use of, you know, hookahs and vapes and whatnot. So they really did a good job, and they came through for us, I guess, in really short notice. So tonight, Doug is going to take you through, you know, he's had many meetings with his staff down there in terms of current issues, challenges. A lot of them you know already, right, in terms of the parking issues and in terms of there was some proposed options given in budget, previous budgets that we declined to do at the time. You know, there's quick wins and then there's long-term wins, right, in terms of how much money do we want to spend on there and what do we want to achieve from that. So I'm going to let Doug take it over and take you through those issues and challenges that he's had with his discussions with his staff. And then from there, we can roll into a discussion with council on really at the end of the day, what's our end goal? How much do we want to spend to get there? And is that something we want to deal with right now? So, Doug?
Thanks, Chris. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just also on the call, in case we get to questions later on, we do have Jay Affleck, John Olson, and Brandy Stevens also on the calls. So I want to go over with council some of the current issues and challenges we're experiencing. And as the CEO mentioned, a lot of these are what we discussed in the past, but I just want to kind of reiterate some of them. So the first one I want to look at is parking. So currently around that Colchester Park Harbor area, we have 7 parking lots. And if Rob, if I'm allowed to share my screen, it's not allowing me to, Rob. Well, I'll continue then.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'll just list the lots. We have the Colchester Community Center lot. We're going to rename this lot, but for better term for reference right now, the lot next to the rec. We have the splash pad lot. We have angle parking along Jackson Street, allowing for 13 spaces. Town has the property in County Road 50 and Dunn. Oh, sorry, here we go. Lonnie Katie's lot for parking. We have the old schools property, and we have the lower level of the harbor by the kiosk, which is permit parking.
Doug, if you want to try it now, see if it comes up.
Yeah.
No?
Yep.
Okay, good. Good.
So Doug, why don't you take us through that again? Sorry to make you repeat, but with the map there, maybe.
It is showing the map on your screens?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not on mine, so we have the Colchester Community Lot. We have the lot next to the rec. We have the splash pad lot. We have our current lot owned by the town up on County Road 50 and Dunn. The adjacent lot that we're being allowed to use for parking. We have the old schoolhouse lot. And at the lower level not marked is the lower level by the kiosk, which is permit parking for seasonal boaters. So those are the lots that we have. Challenge we have is parking is we're trying to accommodate all users. It's not just boaters, it's not just beach users, park. So we're trying to accommodate cars, trucks, and boat trailers. So that's been a challenge in the past. Boat trailers, the way the harbor is set up, as everybody's aware, you have to go down the ramp, onto the ramp, down the road to get to the ramp. Then the people have to go up wherever their trailer is parked. So it's a time sensitive thing. So we're trying to have the boat trailers as close to the ramp as possible. So that's been a challenge. We currently have cars parking in areas they shouldn't be parking. They're driving into the park. They're driving a designated for boat trailer spaces. They're parking wrong way on angle parking. They're on the street when they shouldn't be on the street. So we're having many of those issues. One of the changes we did make this year on this lot, the Colchester Community Center lot, is we removed the curves, which allows trailers and cars to go, or trucks. That seemed to help out a lot. But part of the issue is we need a bylaw created on what our parking restrictions are, because we have parking challenges and we have signage, but we're not allowed to enforce anything. So a couple of options that we've talked about. And just, does everybody see the new screen?
Yes.
This is the lot adjacent to the wreck. What we've done this year to kind of accommodate cars and trucks and also trailers, we currently have parking curbs here. So cars can go in this entrance and boat trailers here. What's happening now though, are boat trailers are also parking here or along here, and it's causing even more confusion. So one of the suggestions is, do we just make this lot, again, we'd have to amend bylaws. One option is we make this just boat trailer parking from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then after that, it's open to anybody. Do we look at promotional campaign that we list all our lots, work with Alex to get a map similar to this that we can point out, but more where all the parking options, where boat trailer options are, vehicles. We need to update our bylaw on what the restrictions are. We need to have enforcement and signage about all the enforcement we may have and potential ticket costs for all lots, especially on the lower level in this lot that boat trailers are in. Currently, Brandy is working on an SOP, standard operating procedure, so that we can have our staff assist with the boats, putting them in the ramp and out of the ramp. Currently, we're not allowed to do that with COVID. So she's working on that, and that will speed up the process. In terms of some longer term solutions could be, we look at a golf cart and a summer student that's driving people to and from their boat trailers to speed up the process. We can look at obtaining costs for gated lots. So this lot again, do we put a gated lot there? When people go and put their trailer in, we give them a validated pass, it opens up the gate. And then after say 1 p.m., it just opens up for all vehicle traffic. We can also look at pay and display lots to help some of these lots, and also obtain some revenue to help with these lots and enforcement in the future. We also have, all these were the things we'd be looking at the 2021 budget. So those are more longer term, but it's something I think we need to look at to give administration direction for the future. The next kind of area was signage, and we want to look at improved signage. And Rob, I don't need to share the screen anymore, so. Can I turn that off, or do you turn that off? Sorry. There we go. So improved signage we're looking at right now. I met with Jay and John this morning. We're looking at at least three 4x8 large beach rule signs at all the entry points. Currently, we have smaller road signs, basically with some rules on smoking and hookahs and kind of some beach rules. This would be very large signs with all the rules so they could see that. We're looking at a large 4x8 sign at County Road 50 in Dunn. Basically says Colchester Park and Harbor overflow parking. Right now, it's just a small parking sign. People do not see that. We're looking at signage at the end of Jackson, just before you go down to the harbor, basically saying overflow parking and pointing to the old schoolhouse. Again, we want it to be very visible so people know what their options are. Currently, we do have large 4x4 signs on the beach facing the water saying no jet skis, so those are in place. And then for all parking lots, we're looking at creating an actual name for it. Could it be lot A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, just so it's easy to identify in a way that we can help with our promotions. The next one, which we heard a lot about this weekend, was garbage. So talked with the staff this morning. We'll be adding extra containers all along the beach in different areas. Currently, the garbage is checked 2 to 3 times per day, and plus 1 extra time at the end of the night by the harbor staff. Throughout the day, it's usually the park staff. The next element was washrooms. So as of this past Friday, June 17th, working with Brandy and the Health and Safety Committee, the Boaters Lounge washrooms are open. Those were first because they're through a fob. So the boaters there have access and we can control it that way. Currently, Brandy with the Joint Health and Safety Committee are working on an SOP for the other public washrooms. And just so council's aware, the issue isn't been we don't want to open the washrooms, but to open them, it's about our staff safety, right? They have to go in and clean them. So we want to make sure there's certain protocols in for their safety. But I think Brandy's pretty close with that. It's just a matter of meeting with the Joint Health and Safety Committee to get that approved. And then hopefully we could get that and open up the splash pad washrooms and the lower level washrooms.
Doug, just one question. How long? Any idea? Can Brandy answer that? How long are we, how long do you think that's going to take? Brandy?
Yeah, through the mayor. So I am meeting with Health and Safety Committee on Wednesday morning to review the final version of the SOP. Once we have that, once we can train staff to do it safely, we'll be able to move forward with opening the washroom. So sometime this week.
Okay, thank you.
The next challenge we're having is staff concerns. So right now, just as our council, we do have harbor staff, but basically their roles are more so for the harbor. They'll help clean with the boaters lounge, but the beach and park and other areas are supposed to be for our park staff. So unfortunately with COVID this year, we've relied on them for a little more help in terms of garbage. But in the past, we've had a dedicated park staff down at the harbor, cleaning up the garbages on the beach and in the park. So hopefully we can address that in the future months coming forward, but that's been an issue right now. The current harbor staff have had some concerns with the beach patrons there now because they keep coming over to the kiosk. As many of you know, we used to have beach rentals, be it paddle boats or different things, and those are gone now. So they're coming over and asking them, do we have any beach equipment rentals? And we don't. We're also having a real struggle with outside of the beach, but patrons on the docks that aren't social distancing and causing a lot of issues there and not listening to anything that they're saying. So that's also causing issues with their stress and issues that they have to bring forward. And then the last challenge that we have is obviously enforcement. So kind of everything we've mentioned already, all the items above won't be effective unless we have some form of enforcement. And with that enforcement, the support of council on any decisions that are made. Just an example, we did have a private company in 2019 provide us an option for parking, which we talked about past in the budget. So that could be another option we want to look at. There's a cost to it, but we could look at it's a per hour cost. We can also look for enforcement. The health unit, they do go down for smoking and hookah enforcement, but they don't have a lot. We can really stress to them, hopefully that they attend more, or maybe an additional cost to us if we want them to be there more often. Another thing I know Chris has been meeting with the OPP is maybe look at getting OPP auxiliary to help us. So it's not the full cost of the OPP regular staff, but get their auxiliary to help us. And then with all this, suggesting that we would have a media campaign. So again, just really want to stress Colchester Beach family friendly. I think that's everybody's goal. We want it to be a family friendly, safe, and enjoyable for everybody. And then we can list the steps that the town is taking to get back to that point. If we have any enforcements, or be it a pay and display or tickets, any of those funds be allocated to go back to Colchester for future enhancements. The campaign could look at listing the parking lot so people know where they can park, or boat trailer options and times. And if we are going to have some type of enforcement in place, similar to what the school board did a couple of years ago, have a media blitz out there to say there is going to be enforcement in these areas. So the public is aware of that. So that's if the beach is open, the current challenges we're experiencing. Then the last one I have is another option, which has been discussed, is, especially with the announcement today, we just closed the beach. So talking with John and Jay this morning, if council went that direction, we could have a fence all around the beach up by 2 p.m. tomorrow. So that could be in place. If that happens, also allows us some time to get some other signage, some of these quick win recommendations in place. If council wants to go in any of those directions I talked about earlier. It allows us a town to approve a bylaw or amend a bylaw for all the parking lots. And we would keep the boaters lounge open because those washrooms are accessible for the boaters and it's only by a fob. So I'd recommend that you keep those open. And then the remaining public washrooms, which would be splash pad and by the Hero Arena tennis courts, those could open in phase 2 if that was council's direction. So that's just an overview of kind of challenges we experienced, not only this week, but in the past, and kind of maybe some direction from council how we want to move forward.
Thank you, Doug. Before I open it up to the floor, I just want to ask you one thing, Doug. Would it be possible? I thought, I got a lot of calls on this, and the calls I got in emails were all close the beach. And I guess that was because people were unhappy what happened Friday night, and that could have happened. That can happen anywhere. We're all teenagers at one time. But anyways, getting away from that, is it possible? Because there's a lot of times I go down to that beach. I'm at that beach a lot, and during the week, I see families down there. Okay, now with this COVID, there's a lot of people not working. There's a lot of people at home, a lot of mothers with children. I'm just going to throw this out to council. Is it possible that we keep this beach open during the week and close it during the weekends? Because this is where we're getting huge gatherings, and most of the people that are using the beach are not residents from our municipality. And I'm not saying we don't want them there. We invite them there. But I mean, with this COVID virus that's going on, we have to be leaders too. We have to show direction to the public. We have to show them safetiness. Okay, so I'm throwing that out. Is there a possibility that this beach could be open during the week and closed Saturday and Sunday? Doug, can you answer that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We would go with any council direction, but one challenge just right at the top of my head is how do you secure it off during the weekend? Right now, it's going to take quite a bit just to fence it off. We could look at, I guess, if council was at the direction, we would fence it off now with openings. So you allow that during, say, the week, and then it's locked back up during the weekends. But we would have to fence it off if that was an option.
Yeah, and I'm saying too, and then I'm going to open up. I don't think we would need an officer down there. I don't even think we would need a bylaw officer down there during the week, because I think it would be local people that use it. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, through your worship, I think, it's a thought. The issue with any type of inconsistent opening and closing, that becomes the issue, right? Being inconsistent in when we're open. And the issue that we had was Friday, not Saturday or Sunday. So now do we push it back to Friday? And if our staff is spending, 6 hours twice a week opening and closing, is that something that we want to do as well? So anything is possible, like Doug noted, in terms of, your direction. We're in this phase 1, very strongly in this phase 1 after listening to the press conference today. Is it something you consider, tying it to phase 2, right? Tying our beach opening to our phase 2 opening. I don't know. These are just, I know it's a tough decision for council. I know it's a no-win. It's one of those decisions where you're going to get flack from either side of the argument, no doubt. The issue, as noted, I think in a few emails this weekend, aside from, the specific issues we had Friday night, it does become a volume issue, right? And you have people that are, how do you police, okay, well, these 10 people are not with these 10 people, or maybe with these 10 people, but they're all separate. So how do we police that? It's hard to say. Like we noted, Saturday was fine. I was out there for an hour or 2 hours, packed, but it was okay. Just something council has to weigh right now and give us those directions. A lot of the quick wins we can do, it's still going to take some time. Get this extra signage in and the media releases in the press and whatnot. Some of the other issues are definitely longer term and more money. But that's what we're here for tonight, to throw those options out, have that discussion with council and see the direction that you guys as a body want to head.
Yeah. Chris, just add to that. I know you were down there Saturday. I was down there Saturday too. I seen Sherry down there. And yes, there was a tremendous amount of people there, tremendous amount of people. And you talk about social distance, it wasn't happening. The only thing, all I'm trying to stress here is, are we going to take leadership out of our municipalities and act on this COVID virus? Because I talked to Councillor Vandendolen on it, or Councillor Bjorkman, pardon me, and we had quite a discussion on it. And I was in favor of keeping it open, and I talked to Councillor Bjorkman, and I agree. If we're going to tackle this virus, we can't allow huge crowds like that, because it only takes one person, one person to infect many. So, and this is why we're still in phase 1. So I'll leave it at that. I'll open up to council. Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is just one quick question to Doug, and it's only from the report you gave about the marina. Yes, I agree. We have to address the beach issue, but it's about the marina. You were saying that there's a struggle with social distancing. My own personal experience with my daughter's great big boat, and us spending a lot of time at a neighboring marina during the summers, they're not even using their slip, where we typically spend huge amounts of summertime there, because everyone in the marina is not practicing social distancing, and it's making the ones that want to stay in their bubble uncomfortable. Are we taking action at our marina to ensure for the, all of these people that are paying for our slips are able to count on social distancing when they're out there on their docks, when they're out there accessing their property, their boats? I'm just wondering, are we having similar struggles at our marina with our, our paying patrons that are using our slips?
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and actually, Councillor Verbeek, the issue is our slip holders that are paying. When we were allowed to open up the harbor, we have all signage about social distancing and guidelines. All those were sent in advance to all the boaters. But right now, we and our staff, they're doing their job. When they see an issue, they do approach the groups. They do mention the guidelines, and they're just ignoring it. They're not taking it serious. So that's a real struggle, because you have some that maybe don't take this serious, but you have a number that want to enjoy their boat and do take it serious. So that's where the staff are having a real struggle right now, where we're not getting the respect from these boaters. So we've sent out an email, kind of like a 3-phase approach, kind of a reminder. The next step, we're going to do a written notice, and the third step we will be asking them to remove their boat.
Go ahead.
I have a follow-up. I know we're here to talk about the beach, but I can tell you right now, my son-in-law and daughter are ready to just pull it out and take their money back for the season, because they can't at the marina they're at. I'm just saying that that's a risk that we have. If we can't protect the boaters that want to follow the guidelines and practice social distancing, if we can't protect them, we could have them doing exactly what my family's doing, and that's pulling out of the marina they're in LaSalle. Just a thought.
Thank you, Councillor. Who was next here? Councillor Guerin. Go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so on the beach, without taking into consideration cost or how we could do this, on the social distancing part, could we not fence the beach in some manner where we could staff a person to control the number of people that we can funnel into the beach at one time? So you can put a fence line across the bottom of the beach into an area where we can get X amount of people in there. And once we reach that goal, we cut them off, just like you would at a grocery store. Is that a possibility? And perhaps even when their beach is open, in one way or the other, could we have an area designated for just parents and tots, or maybe a time of a day for just parents and tots, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. weekdays, something along those lines that would help families that have concern going down there with large groups or teenagers or whatever, give them some sense of safeness anyways, at bringing their kids down there. But if there's a way, yeah, we could do things like that. That'd be interesting in hearing.
Thank you, Councillor. Our CAO would like to comment on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, through your worship, all to be considered, but that's an expense as well, because that's full-time staffing. Then you have someone out there, similar to a theme park, basically, where you're saying you can only be here, you can only come here. and that's all day, every day if we're opening up to certain times. So, and then my other concern would be with that, if we restrict the numbers to the beach, if people are coming to the beach expecting to get onto the beach, then the overflow is going to be at the park. So we're going to experience similar problems then in the park as people potentially wait in line for people to leave to be able to get to the beach. So those are some concerns I had. I don't know if Doug has any other concerns with that at this point.
Your Mayor, just with that too, just how the design of the build with ravine and basically a bunch of entrances, I think you would have to, it'd be more than one staff. I think you'd have to have a few staff in certain locations because you'd have to make sure you have the proper exits in case there's ever an emergency as well too.
Thank you, Doug. Who's next? Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, I'm working off my phone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in favor of shutting the beach down completely. I spent the weekend out there, obviously, 60 feet away, and I would go over every half hour, and just kind of keep an eye on what was going on and what I saw. And Friday, obviously, night was a debacle. And it was, you know, I spoke with police officers afterwards. They said every name that they took down had a Windsor address attached to that name. So there was groups that came out there. It was I'm going to call it a unique night, even from what I've seen there the last couple of years. However, there was still a ton of people that could not stay away from one another. We didn't put any volleyball nets up, but they tied ropes up onto the poles, and they had big volleyball games going on anyway. There were groups of young people, you know, just sitting tight together, you know, hiding their hookahs when the officers would go by, hiding their beers and stuff. And again, to the mayor's point, we're all kids. We all had a couple of beers down at the beach. Those things have happened in the past, and they'll happen in the future. However, at this time with COVID and the concern that we are still in stage 1, we got left here again this week. We are going to, one of these days, I'm afraid, be one of the reasons that we stay in this, because they're going to say, look what's happening out here. You're not controlling your population, and we're going to actually add to the reason why we don't get out of stage 1. So I think it's important. It's more important for the greater good that all our businesses get back to work and that we move out of this, instead of having 200 people that aren't able to go and use the beach. And I'm talking about just residents. We don't, to the point of, you know, during the week, there's not that many people. That's true, except this past week, starting Wednesday night, the beach was full. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The people want to get out, and we're the only place they can go. They're coming from the entire county to use our beach, and they're going to keep coming. We have no washrooms. We've got 4 porta-johns. There's not a way to keep them clean. There's not proper hand washing. Until we can open our washrooms and provide a safe and secure beach that people can use, I don't think we should be open at all. I think it's really simple.
We lost you, Councillor. We just got that. Can you hear us, Councillor?
As far as the beach goes.
There you go.
There's some, you know, other things with the signs. Am I gone?
Yeah.
As the beach goes, I believe it needs to close.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. I did just before I get into Councillor Van, I did take a ride this morning, and just let council know, I went to Cedar Beach. Both beaches are completely closed there. Matter of fact, they have concrete barriers up and ropes. So, Councillor Van Andel, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I think we have 2 completely different and separate issues before us. One is that big batch of issues, which are all basically caused by the success of developing Colchester Beach and all the things that we probably have to look at doing that Mr. Sweet went through. And there are some great ideas in there. And I'm in favor of making that the lot across the road from the Colchester Center fishing trailers only until 1, and then because that's the beach people come later anyway. That would be a terrific idea. and the big signage, I'm in favor of that. So we've got to all address that. But the whole COVID thing, to me, is a separate issue. I'll back up a bit. The stuff about the so-called violence on the beach and the problems of Friday, these are nothing new. This has been happening for at least a quarter of a century. My own sons used to come all the way out here from Windsor 20 years ago and 25 years ago, and they've told me that they saw the same thing then. So this isn't new, and we have to manage that. And by the way, shocking, $2,500 a day for overtime for the cops. Boy, we really do have to look at our policing if we have to pay for basic policing extra on top of that. I don't disagree with the decision to do so, but that's outrageous that we have to pay that amount. And then there's the issue of COVID. And this council, for the last, 3 meetings in a row, this entire council has unanimously agreed that the lockdown is way over the top, and it shouldn't exist, it has to end, and demanding that Premier Ford open this province right now and let Essex open. So now we've changed our mind all of a sudden. So now we're going to close our beach, but we want Ford to open our main street. I don't think there's any difference here. If opening the beach is dangerous for COVID, then opening the main street and the stores is also dangerous. We have to be consistent here. And if the rest of council changes their mind over everything they said for the past month, fine, but I'm not going to. I think the beach should stay open, and then we should learn to manage the problems of success that we've created ourselves by inviting the whole county to come down to the beach, and now they are. So I intend to vote against closing the beach, but in favor of the traffic and the signs and the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Deputy Mayor Malash, you haven't spoke yet.
Yeah, can you guys hear me, Adam? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm mute. Councillor Vanderdolen, just the one thing that's different is once businesses open up, it's up to them there's a sense of control there. They're going to make sure, the store owners themselves are going to make sure that they're not over capacity, and the restaurants, because if they get caught over capacity, they're going to get shut down. Whereas with the beach, we have to have somebody there that takes control of whether there's groups of more than 10. I don't know if we're going to keep it open, whether we mark it out in circles like I've seen in different park areas or schoolyards or daycares where they have, a bunch of people. But if we were to close the beach, would it reopen when we go to phase 2? And then we're looking at trying to put controls in place anyway. So if that's the case, if we're going to be in phase 2 in 1 week from now, or if we're going to be in phase 2 in 2 weeks from now, tonight we should be looking at what we're going to put in place if we're going to open the beaches when we hit phase 2. Because it could happen even earlier than that. And if we hit phase 2, are we going to keep the beaches closed regardless of whether we're allowed to open them or not? I think we should be looking at what other centers are doing as well right now, as far as their beaches go. The mayor just mentioned that Cedar Beach was roped off and closed to the public. What about other beaches? Is Sandpoint closed in Riverside, Tecumseh area?
Holiday Beach is closed also.
And Holiday Beach. So I don't know. I don't know the real answer here. I'm kind of looking for direction from administration. I'd like to keep it open if I thought it was safe, but it sounds like it's not, right? The way it's operating right now. So that's my concerns. I think right now I'm leaning towards closing it, but I want to again emphasize that we're going to probably be reopening it very soon. What are we going to put in place? We should be discussing that as well tonight for when we do reopen. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The CAO has comment. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, a couple of points. I think it's not that it's unsafe. A lot of the issues with COVID come down to personal responsibility, right? When we're talking about the policies and the procedures, if everybody is being personally responsible and doing what they need to do, then there's no issue. So the beach itself and the porta-johns and the parking and whatnot, a lot of the issues we're having come down to people not making the choice to be personally responsible. So I guess I don't consider it unsafe. I consider the volumes of people, when you start doing the law of averages, right? The more people there's more possibility of people not following the rules. And how do we then make sure they follow the rules? So a couple things on what you noted, Deputy Mayor Malaj. Regardless of closing or of keeping it closed during phase one or however long potentially you want to keep it closed, a lot of the things that Doug brought forward tonight, we're moving ahead with because they make the beach better. It's just been enhanced that we're seeing these issues because of the volume of people. So the signage is going to happen regardless of what you decide tonight. We're moving ahead with that. The beach rules sign, the parking signs, all those things are going to happen. The bathrooms, like Brandy noted, we're talking about, we've been talking about getting them open anyways. It's just getting our policies and procedures in place to ensure that our staff is there. So those bathrooms don't just entail the bathrooms at Colchester Beach, what we're looking at opening, right? So there's the process behind that. So that'll be ready to go. Will it take some time to get to that? Yeah, but it's going to happen regardless of what you decide tonight. And I think to Councillor Vanderloon's point, we are in phase one strongly. So you as a council, do you consider that this beach being closed is tied to this phase one, and then allowing to go to phase two would allow us to open the beach as well? Somehow it's tied together. So that's where I'm looking at it. To close it, the cost will be minimal. You're looking at some fencing or some barriers and some staffing, whatnot. But again, I think there's some more councillors that still need to speak.
Yep. Councillor Bondi, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank you personally for taking leadership and calling this special meeting of council and addressing it. And I know you worked really hard on this file along with other councillors this weekend. And thank you to our administration for taking swift action as well. And I did look at the beach again today, and it does look fantastic. It's a very beautiful and welcoming beach, which is why we're having this problem. So I think in terms of my concerns and priorities, I think the trailer parking, if we were to close the beach, then perhaps we could get a better handle on the trailer parking, which is one of the bigger concerns down there, I believe, because people who want to put their boat in, they feel like they pay for parking and they want to be able to find parking. So that's one of the big issues that I'm hearing. Number two is bathrooms, right? For sanitary reasons. And I know bathrooms come along with staffing and potentially phase two, but people down there do not want it. Our residents who pay our taxes do not want to see people going to the bathroom around the pirate ship or in the gully. So we have to get a handle on that. So bathrooms, to me, come along with keeping the beach open. My third point is phase two. We're not in phase two. So both keeping the beach open or closing the beach, both are very defensible, right? We could sit here and both of us could all agree on one or the other and defend it. But the fact that we're not in phase two and the rest of the province is, that's got to tell us something. My fourth point is the enforcement costs. First of all, I agree with Councillor Vanderdoel in that the police should just be policing this like they police the third without having additional costs to our residents. This is an area where, I'll say this, if we had our old police, they would have just been down there, right? They would have. So now to pay $4,000 or $5,000 each weekend, that is something I can't support. We either need to get that into what the police are doing normally for us, or we have to come up with something else. My fifth thing is our residents want a family-friendly beach. And because I think we're the only beach open, it's not so family-friendly. I had messages from our residents this weekend saying, I went down there with my family. I couldn't stay more than 15 minutes because it's not family-friendly. Despite the police being there, I still heard, there is still some drinking, some smoking. So I don't know. I could see both sides too, but I'm leaning towards closing it until we can get a better handle on trailer parking, a better handle on signage, and a better handle on our situation. Mr. Mayor, also, you did mention your work with the health unit, and I appreciate, I've been following what you've been doing, and you are really doing a great job on that file as well. Pushing the health unit. We need to push the health unit more. We need to get numbers. We need to find out in our community where that cases are. You know, we're a hotspot, and we should not be a hotspot at this stage in the game. So I would love us to work on that file a little bit more eventually. So, you know, if somebody makes a motion to close it, I really, you know, I think it's kind of the logical move right now. Unfortunately, until we can get a better handle on things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Our CAO would like to comment. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, just a couple of things. There are some other beaches open. Lakeshore's Beach is open. Leamington's Beach, I believe Seacliff is open as well. I do want to talk regarding the OPP. Like I said, I've had many discussions, and I'm by all means not defending them, but they have up until that issue Friday incorporated policing the beach as part of their normal everyday duties. When you have a need where it needs a focus of potentially full-time work, it's something that they can't dispense, and their contract was never wrapped around isolating and focusing and dispensing officers at one location, whether it's the beach or somewhere else, for the entire shift. So they have supported us to this point. Really, they've been very good. We haven't had to use any other, you know, we've had nice weekends before this weekend. And after hours, so we've never had to make an issue for after hours or on weekend use of any extra costs, whether they're our own costs by law enforcement or policing costs. A lot of other municipalities are getting additional security and by law enforcement on the weekends. We haven't done that yet. We're at that point where we're discussing it. So again, not to their defense, but I just want to, you know, kind of the discussions I had that I know council is not privy to on how that works. You know, the call to put them out there for 12 hours, both Saturday and Sunday was my call. That's why those costs are, you know, that as well. But that's what I felt we needed this weekend. So we can talk about options and a hybrid of options, but I just, like I said, I wanted to speak a little bit on the OPP and the policing now. Thank you,
Chris. Who was next here? Councillor Verbeek, I think. Oh, Councillor Bowman, pardon me. Just hold on, Councillor Verbeek, for a second. Go ahead, Councillor Bowman.
Yes, thank you. And just to reiterate what Chris was saying about the policing, if you have a specific event where you need dedicated officers, that's an additional charge that always pops up because you're not using the regular allotment of the officers in your area. The Fun Fest, the Harrow Fair, those are examples of that. So that's a budgeted item each year and their cost. So that is a normal thing, no matter which force. When we had our own police force, we paid extra to get officers for that as well. So whether it's OVP or local force, same thing. When you get back to the issues at the harbor, obviously the simplest thing is to close it. It comes with some strings attached, but the real issue I think comes down to two things. We're worried about the COVID-19 and how we handle that, and the second side is how do we handle the people at the harbor. And I think they're two separate issues to the most part. And I hate to give in to the masses when we have a facility that way and it's not being operated the way we like to see it. And I believe that we should move forward and put in the requirements to make it work properly, you know, with the washrooms, with the better, I'll say a word security, but watching the beach and move forward on that. The COVID thing is another thing. So that's another issue. You have to keep driving that back to the people. The signage I think would help, but you also have to have somebody there reminding the people that they're not social distancing. And that's the other side of that issue. And again, it comes down to some form of policing or security service or some type of thing along that line. And I guess the real thing is going to boil down to, we want to pay the money to keep our beach and park open the way we intended it to be, or do we close it? Now, I wasn't down there on the weekend, so I was getting the messages from the various people, and I appreciate that. So it makes it much easier to stay in touch when people do that. I appreciate that. But I still think the real focus should be to keep it open and keep moving forward. I think the province did wrong on how they're handling our area as far as the COVID goes. And there's unfortunately very little we can do, whether we close or open the beach. I don't think it's going to change the perspective from the province on how we're doing things down here. So I'm still in favor of keeping it open and putting in the proper procedures to handle it.
Thank you, Councillor. Everybody spoke, eh? Okay, Councillor Verbeek, you had something else to say here? Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. No, I just wanted to comment on the beaches. You know, as I said, my first thoughts were just a question about the harbor. So just listening to everybody speak, I'm just trying to digest this all to see, clearly we're going to come to a vote whether we open or close the beaches after this meeting. So I'm just trying to digest what everybody's brought to the table. I do agree with the deputy mayor in that we should be looking at other practices. We are not in stage 2, and I really feel like we need to take all the steps we can to get ourselves out of this first stage and to prevent any potential spread. Are we going to probably have to put up fencing at the beach so that maybe at busy times we'll need to require some head counting going in and out? Sure, and some crowd control, because we're not going to be allowed to have big crowds for quite some time. However, what I heard Mr. Sweet say is that some of our harbor staff, they're already taxed with helping our paying slip owners and our marina owners from from doing their marina duties. They're already being called away for beach goers, right? Also, if there's a maximum of like 2 or 3 other beaches open in the community, then we're definitely going to be taking an influx from all the other communities that aren't opening their beaches. Is it going to cost us more to start putting, what someone said, circles, and definitely more weekend policing and the fencing? Yeah, could we maybe if save those funds, divert them to making sure that at least the marina and the parking are where they need to be right now, and look at reopening after there's all the other or many of the other beaches in the community open, so we're not taking an influx from all of the neighboring communities. I would, and also I really like the idea of looking at other practices at other beaches more closely. And yeah, we got to do what we can to stem the spread. And if big events where people are coming into close contact like that are still a potential risk, then we're never going to get out of this stage. And if we came down to a vote right now, I think I would probably vote to reclose it for a while and focus on the parking and the marina, and open when other community beaches are opening up. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, everybody spoke. Go ahead, Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to make one comment. Either if we make a decision to close the beach, everyone has to be mindful of the fact that if it's because of social distancing, this could be going on for well past through the summer into the fall. So if you're going to be prepared to close the beach because of social distancing, then really what we're saying is we don't feel safe to open that beach back up until we can get mass gatherings of at least 250 people plus. Anything less than that, phase 2 isn't going to do it. Phase 3 isn't going to do it. And we have no signs of when this will actually happen. Some are saying that January 2021 at the earliest for anything remotely close to those numbers. So if we make a decision to close it, that's kind of what I think we're looking at. We'd have to be closing it for the rest of the summer, for the rest of the year.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Yeah, and that's where I'm a little bit lost in my decision, because I'm not really comfortable saying that I'd like to see it closed all summer. But I guess really what Councillor Guerin is saying is true, is that, if we're at a bad spot right now and we're not able to control, or we don't think it's our duty to control the number of people that are gathering on the beach, then I would say that it should be closed for the rest of the summer. I do like the idea, though, the mayor's idea of opening up through the week for residents only. And you're not going to get that big influx of city people that are going to make a difference and not follow the rules, basically. But and then the other thing is, who's going to control, or who's going to monitor or police? If we have the beach closed, who's going to be the person that tells those people that are jumping over the fence to get off the beach?
Well, that's easy.
Yeah, it's true. Go ahead.
I think through your worship, a couple of things. I think that becomes much easier to police and to call, and probably few and far between if someone's actually physically jumping a fence to be able to monitor and put a phone call into the police. And we know how vigilant Colchester residents are. I'm sure they would be there and making calls prior to any of our staff being there. So that I don't think that would be an issue. I think also, I don't know legally if we can start to say this is only open for certain residents. I don't know how that works. I'll be honest with you, and that's something I'd have to confer with legal. If we could start saying to people, you can't come here if you don't live here. I'm not sure about that. So that's something I'd have to look into. So yeah, I just want to make those 2 points.
If I may, I'm going to ask the CAO this, and Rob's here. Could we open it up? And I'm going to ask council, could we open it up during the week? Just open the beach up, because we're not going to have the traffic. Okay. We're not going to have the traffic like we do on the weekends. It's obviously we're not. It's the weekends that's packed. I'm not saying just for residents. Open it up during the week, have it closed Saturday and Sunday. These are the 2 days where we get huge amounts of traffic down there. So I'm saying overall, open it up Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday, the beach is closed. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, through worship, yeah, we can do that. I think, as Doug noted, in terms of now you're not just fencing, you're adding gating, and you have to have proper gating for access and egress, and managing that. I think as well, maybe at the days, I'm not sure. I mean, like we said, the issue we had was Friday. As we move into the summer, and now even virtual school is done. Councilor Bjorkman noted, Wednesday night it starts. If you have a nice string of weather, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you got July 1st coming up next week, which is a Wednesday holiday, and a lot of people are off Thursday, Friday.
That is true. That's true. Yeah.
Those are just, put it out there, right?
Well, Councilor Bjorkman and myself, we stood there and we watched, and Councilor Bjorkman, he's got to agree. They were shoulder to shoulder down there. It was unbelievable, the amount of people. And going back to COVID, who knows if we had a case that come out of there. Over the weekend, I don't know how many people were down there on Saturday. What would you say, Councilor Bjorkman? How many people would you say was on that beach Saturday? There was hundreds.
Yeah, for sure. It was in the high hundreds, 1,000 people there.
Yeah, and how are you going to control this virus? And I don't know. I have mixed feelings too, Council. But I mean, I'm looking at closing it, to be honest with you, to be safe until phase 2, anyways. Until phase 2,
And reassess.
and then we'll reassess it at that time. Go from there. Councilor Bondi, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we do close it, I am not in favor of closing it for a month. I think we close it for a couple weeks tops. We look at signage. I think we could do a better job opening it. If we close it, we take our time. Doug has listed out a whole bunch of good ideas on how we can open it more safe. We may be stuck in phase one. I hope not. I think we have to be optimistic that we won't be. But if we close it, I don't want to send the message that we're closing it for the rest of the summer. People's mental health is going to, like, people need to get out, right? So I think that this is one way. If we can open it up better, then I think I would be in favor of closing it. I would like us to stay active on this file. Like, we may have to discuss this file. I would love to discuss this file before July 6th. Like, let's have some more updates about it. And then I think we have to really get serious about where the numbers are, where the cases are, and start applying pressure back on the health unit and the ministry, and start getting some better stats about where COVID cases are in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Guerin, you were next, and then Councillor Vanendel.
Yeah, just one last point, and it's a good, healthy meeting. I think it was needed. Just, it seems like social distancing seems to be a concern of many of the councillors and myself. Getting to phase 2 is not going to change our numbers of 10, I don't believe. So the phasing doesn't mean anything to me. Phase 1, phase 2, it's all the same. As far as the beach and social distancing is concerned, I'm really not in favor of closing the beach if we don't have to. I think after hearing what Doug had to say and Brandy had to say with the signage and with the things they want to do, that might all come together pretty quickly. And if we count last Friday as a one-off and the potential not being there as far as the violence and all that other stuff, we might be able to get there. Perhaps we could stay open, get all that stuff going as soon as possible, get the washrooms open, but be prepared that if we have another day like we had on the weekend, that we don't need to have another meeting and administration just closes it. I think that might be all we really need to decide today, possibly. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
One other note, through your worship, I know, there's comments as far as what's the difference between phase 1 and phase 2. I think the difference is in phase 2, there's more options for families to do things, right? Whether they're going to a patio restaurant, whether they're going to eat somewhere. So right now there's no options to do anything. Phase 2 splash pads can open potentially, right? So when you start opening splash pads and potentially outdoor pools, wherever they're at, that's going to start pulling away some of those numbers that are coming to the beach now, right? Right now, this is the only place they can get water, right? And I think that's the difference between phase 1 and phase 2 that I see.
Good, thank you. We're going to have to come to a decision here, but was there anybody else that wanted to speak here? Councillor Vanendel, you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I have two questions. One, is this meeting being live streamed?
Yes, it is.
Public.
It is? Okay, I can't seem to find it on YouTube. I've been looking. And secondly, okay, so if it's live streamed, then a record will be available later for people to review how we came to this decision.
Right.
Correct? All right, thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, through your worship. I just want to go back to a couple of things. This idea that us closing the beach is backtracking on our demands that our businesses and stuff be able to get open. I don't see that as the case. We're not backtracking by that. We're closing the beach to help ensure we get out of phase 2. We're closing the beach because people are down there and there's 1,000 people on the beach and 4 porta potties. We don't have proper services to serve these people. You don't open something to the full public until you're ready for the full public to attend. One of the issues we need to go back to is, why is the beach open right now? The beach is open because passive parks were allowed to, we took all the stuff off the benches, we took all the tape off the picnic tables, and we're allowed to have passive parks and people going in and sitting. And our residents came to us and said, well, what's the difference with the beach? Why can't we just go down and sit at the beach too? And we said, that's a good idea. That was the impetus for us opening the beach. I didn't realize 1,000 people were going to show up. I just call me naive, and I've learned my lesson. But we're not ready for 1,000 people. So we shouldn't have that beach open. Our staff's not there. Our staff isn't safe. There's 2 people down at that beach, down at that harbor, and they've got people hassling. That's not right either. So we need to close the beach. We need to get all of our ducks in a row, get our signs up, get our washrooms open, have our staff ready to clean up garbage, have our staff ready to work down there. And when we're ready to work and we're ready to provide a safe place, open the beach. I believe that's where we need to go. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. But we had, I think Councillor Bondi, were you ready to make a motion? Was it you that was thinking about the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It sounds like Steve Bjorkman put some really good words there. You know, we close the beach until we're ready to have bathrooms and proper signage so that we can open it safely. Yeah. Not necessarily tied to phase 2 though. I really don't want that wording in there because we may be ready before phase 2 and we could be in phase 2 for 3 months.
Okay,
I'll second that.
So I'll take that motion if you like.
Did you second that, Councillor Bjorkman?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. All in favor of that?
No discussion on it?
No discussion? Any discussion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Malash.
No,
You had discussion?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, all in favor again? Can I see the hands again, please? Opposed? 2 opposed, and it's carried. Thank you, Council. That was.
We'll provide you regular.
Yeah, we will close it, but we will get right on doing what we have to do to get it back open again. So I think we're really showing leadership in all the municipalities right now. I think they're looking at this, and I think we're doing a good job here. So I think we're making the right decision. And I agree with Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Bondi. We did open it too soon and we weren't really ready for it. So I agree. So thank you very much, Council. Anything else tonight?
No, I just want to say, I know we've heard it before, but we will continue as we've done, keeping those lines of communication with council open and letting you know as we progress along, certain stages, whether they're the ability to open bathrooms, we'll let you know when that happens. The signage, we'll give you the pictures of the signage that are going to be made when the signs are installed. So we'll keep you in the loop like we do with all the work that's going on here.
Thank you very much, staff. I know it's been a grind, and just before we go, I know some of our staff down there, some of the girls, and they're young, okay, and some of the things that happened down there, they were actually afraid of some of the things that happened. So we're going to get on top of it. It will be closed tomorrow.
Yep.
Tomorrow, the beach will be closed, and it won't open until we have the signage and everything in place and the washrooms open.
Get the press releases out.
Yeah, we'll get the press release out tomorrow morning, or maybe even tonight. Yeah, tonight. We'll work on it tonight. And we'll work with Alex. And go ahead, Councillor Guerin. One last thing before we go.
I just need some clarification. So the closing of the beach is until washrooms and proper signage and stuff like that. And then we reopen, and we still have to have regard for the social distancing. So how are we enforcing that?
Go ahead.
I think through your worship, that's something that we're going to have to work through. I mean, the notice or the motion made tonight was to close it and then keep on, it's not tied to anything. So I think it's going to ensue further discussions with council as we near a date, maybe where council's comfortable with it, and we can talk about those things there.
Yeah, and just further that, being a member of the health on the board, the health unit, I will be notifying the health board to beef up, presence down there. And there should, if you start handing out a few fines of $700, $750, I think you're going to see people spread out. So anyways, thank you very much, council. And I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Guerin and Deputy Mayor Malash, all in favor? It's carried. And thank you very much, council, for taking the time at 4 o'clock short notice for the meeting. Thank you very much.